All right, ready to dive into something really mind-bending.
Let's do it.
You guys sent us this fascinating interview with Charles Sabourin
Yeah.
talking about multidimensional consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's got me thinking, is there like this invisible system kind of running things behind the scenes,
Oh, absolutely.
shaping our thoughts and choices without us even realizing it?
Yeah, and it's interesting how traditional psychology often overlooks this whole thing, this invisible system, as he calls it.
Right.
Like there's this hidden world, a psychic system that's always running in the background.
Okay.
And he thinks it works through these things he calls vibrational memories and atmospheres.
Okay, hold on. Vibrational memories and atmospheres.
Yeah.
That sounds a little out there.
It does, it does.
Break that down for us a bit.
Okay, imagine you walk into a library.
Okay.
And you just instinctively lower your voice.
Yeah, you can feel the vibe.
Right. You're picking up on the atmosphere.
Right.
But Sabourin's saying these atmospheres are everywhere. In our relationships, at work, constantly shaping our behavior.
Without us even knowing.
Exactly, without us consciously knowing. And these atmospheres, they're shaped by vibrational memories,
Okay.
which are basically energetic imprints of past experiences.
So it's like our past experiences are just hanging out in the air,
Kinda.
like a scent, and we're reacting to them without realizing it.
Yeah, like subconsciously.
I could see how that could explain why we sometimes feel stuck, repeating the same patterns, even when we know better.
Exactly. He even says people are manipulated by atmospheres, not necessarily by forms. We tend to focus on the outward stuff, what we can see.
Right.
But he's saying there's a whole other layer underneath shaping everything.
This is seriously challenging my assumptions here.
Yeah.
So where exactly this system?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He links it to something he calls the fifth dimension.
Which a lot of people would call the soul.
Right, exactly. But he's not talking about some mystical, far-off concept.
Okay.
Imagine a universal library
Okay.
containing every experience you've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Every feeling, every thought, all influencing your choices today. That's kind of what he means by the fifth dimension. It's not about fluffy clouds and herps.
So it's more like a dimension of information,
Yes.
of memories and programs interacting with our reality.
Exactly. It's constantly interacting with our present reality.
Okay. That's a lot to process. I can get how past experiences shape us,
Yeah.
but a universal library, recording everything,
Yeah.
that feels a bit much, even for me.
Yeah.
But if all this is true, does that mean we aren't really in control of our choices?
That's the big question he raises. Is
Yeah.
this invisible system is influencing us? How much free will do we really have? Are we just playing out pre-programmed patterns?
Right.
It makes you think twice about the whole idea of free will.
It really does. So is there any way to break free from this system? Or are we all just destined to repeat these patterns forever? He talks about true awakening, right?
Right. He does, yeah.
And how it's different from having a spiritual awakening.
Right.
So what's the difference there?
He says a lot of those spiritual experiences are just glimpses into this multidimensional reality.
Okay.
Like seeing a flash of the Matrix code, but not really getting it.
Got it.
True awakening is about observing the system in real time, like seeing the code A and D, being able to decode it.
Oh, okay.
You start to see the mechanics of your own thoughts and reactions as they're happening.
Interesting.
You understand why you react in certain ways.
So how do you actually do this multidimensional observation? It's not about meditating on a mountaintop, right?
No. It's about noticing your reactions in everyday life. Like, let's say you get angry in traffic.
Yeah.
Instead of just reacting, ask yourself, why am I this angry? What deeper fear or insecurity is this triggering?
Wow.
That's the start of multidimensional observation. You're starting to see below the surface.
So you sort of understand the why.
Yeah, the hidden mechanics driving your behavior.
Okay, so we've talked about this invisible system running in the background, but how do we start to see in our own lives? Like, what signs should we look for?
Well, Sabourin says one of the key things is when you feel like you're not in control of your reactions. Like you're on autopilot, responding in a certain way, even if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, okay.
He believes that's a sign one of these unconscious programs is running the show.
Okay.
And he says, we often mistake these programs for our true selves.
Wait, so you're saying I'm basically a puppet to this invisible system. That's kind of unsettling, but how can we tell the difference between our true selves and these programs running in the background?
That's where things get really, really interesting. Let's say you had a childhood experience, like being bullied.
Yeah.
That experience could create a program
Okay.
that makes you overly sensitive to criticism as an adult,
Ah, interesting.
even if it's just constructive feedback at work. You know,
Right.
you're operating from this old program without even realizing it.
I see what you're saying. It's like we're carrying around all this baggage from our past,
Yeah,
and it's affecting how we see the world and how we react to things.
absolutely.
But if we're not even aware of these programs,
Yeah.
how do we even start to identify them?
Well, Sabourin says to pay close attention to your reactions,
Okay.
especially the ones that feel out of proportion to the situation.
Hmm.
Those are often clues that you're reacting from an old program.
Rather than responding authentically.
Exactly, from your true, authentic self.
So it's about being more self-aware, recognizing those moments when our reactions don't quite match the situation.
Yeah.
This is making me question everything I thought I knew about myself.
It's a journey.
It is. But is there any way to actually break free from these programs?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
Sabourin doesn't offer a simple step-by-step guide,
Okay.
but he does emphasize that it's an ongoing process of self-discovery
Right.
and transformation, and it starts with awareness, like we were talking about.
Okay, so let's say I am aware that I'm overreacting to criticism at work
Right.
because of that childhood bullying.
Okay.
Then what?
Then what? Good question. It's about being willing to question your beliefs
Okay.
and challenge those habitual patterns of thought and behavior.
So in that situation, I might ask myself, is this criticism really about me?
Yeah.
Or am I projecting my past experiences onto this situation?
Exactly.
Okay. So it's about taking a step back, observing my thoughts and feelings without judgment,
Yes.
trying to separate the program from what's actually happening.
Exactly. It's about recognizing those old programs.
Okay.
They were created to protect you in the past,
Yeah.
but they might not be serving you anymore.
Mhm.
It's like having a security system that's so sensitive,
Okay.
it goes off every time a bird flies by.
Okay.
It's not actually protecting you from any real threats.
I love that analogy.
Us paints a picture.
It does. So it's like we're upgrading our internal security system, becoming more discerning about what we let trigger us. But how do we actually reprogram ourselves? Is it about like positive affirmations
Not necessarily.
or forcing ourselves to think differently?
It's more about cultivating a new way of seeing yourself
Okay.
and the world. He talks about developing what he calls multidimensional observation.
Right. Right. Seeing the matrix code, decoding reality.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that?
Yeah.
It still feels a bit abstract.
It's not about like esoteric practices or mystical rituals.
Okay.
It's about bringing awareness to everyday life.
I'm
Every time you catch yourself reacting from an old program,
Yeah.
that's an opportunity
Opportunity for what?
to observe it, to understand it, and to choose a different response.
Oh, I see. So it's like building a muscle.
Exactly.
The more we practice this multidimensional observation,
Yeah,
the better we get at recognizing those programs
Yeah.
and choosing how we want to respond.
exactly. And the more you do it,
Yeah.
the more those old programs lose their power over you.
Oh, interesting.
Because you're bringing them into the light of awareness.
Okay. This is really resonating with me. I'm also wondering about the practical implications. He mentions truly awakened parents would raise their children completely differently. What would that look like?
That's fascinating to consider, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine a world where parents weren't unconsciously passing down their own baggage,
Right.
their own limiting beliefs and programs to their kids.
Wow.
What if they could raise children who were free from those patterns from the very beginning?
Okay, now that feels a bit utopian.
It does, doesn't it?
Can we really prevent passing on our baggage to our kids?
Yeah.
It seems like that's just part of being human.
Well, Sabourin seems to think it's possible. He suggests that awakened parents, they wouldn't just focus on teaching their children what to think,
Oh, interesting.
but how to think. They would encourage them to question everything,
Okay.
to explore their own inner world,
Mm-hmm.
and to develop their own unique understanding of reality.
So instead of projecting our own expectations and fears onto our children, we create space for them to discover their own truth.
Exactly. And it ties back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
If we, as parents, can learn to identify and dismantle our own programs,
Yeah.
we'll be less likely to unconsciously pass them on to our children.
That makes sense. It's about breaking the cycle,
Yeah.
creating a new paradigm for parenting, for human consciousness as a whole.
Yeah.
But how do we even begin to shift such deeply ingrained societal patterns?
It starts with each individual parent choosing to embrace this new way of being.
Okay.
It's like planting a seed.
Oh, yeah.
Each individual act of awareness creates a ripple effect.
A ripple effect. So it's about embodying this multidimensional awareness.
Yes.
In our own lives, in our parenting, in our relationships, every interaction we have.
Exactly. And it's not just about parenting either.
Yeah.
It's about personal transformation in every area of life. It's about each of us becoming aware of our own programs and making conscious choices to break free from those limitations.
This is all starting to feel a bit less overwhelming.
Yeah.
A bit more hopeful.
Yeah.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment.
No.
It's about taking small steps, making conscious choices, gradually shifting our perspective.
Absolutely.
But what about relationships?
Ah, yes.
He mentions that relationships can be catalysts for awakening. How so?
Well, think about it. Relationships are often the most intense experiences we have.
Yeah, they can be.
Emotionally charged, you know. They push our buttons.
Absolutely.
Bring up our insecurities, force us to confront those hidden programs we've been carrying around.
Oh, that's definitely true. Relationships can feel like a crash course in self-awareness.
Yeah. Whether we want it or not, right?
Right.
And if we're not aware of those programs running in the background, we tend to project them onto our partners, blaming them for our own emotional reactions.
Oh, I've definitely been guilty of that. It's so easy to get caught up in the blame game when you're in the middle of a conflict.
It is. But you're saying that instead of blaming our partners, we can use those moments to understand ourselves better. Exactly. It's about shifting from blame to curiosity.
Okay.
Instead of saying, you're making me angry, you can ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? What old wound is being triggered right now?
So it's about using those challenging moments as opportunities.
Right.
To practice multidimensional observation.
Yeah.
To see the program in action and choose a more conscious response.
Exactly. And the more you do that,
Yeah.
the less reactive you become in your relationships. You start to see your partner not as the cause of your suffering, but as a mirror, reflecting back those parts of yourself that need healing.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. But it also sounds like a lot of work. Is it really possible to transform our relationships in this way?
It's not always easy, but it's definitely possible. It requires a willingness to be honest with yourself,
Okay.
to take responsibility for your own reactions, and to communicate openly with your partner.
So it's about bringing that awareness into every aspect of the relationship, not just when things are difficult.
Exactly. It's about creating a space of mutual understanding and growth, where both partners feel safe to be vulnerable and authentic. And it's about remembering that you're both on a journey of evolution, constantly learning and growing together.
This is giving me a lot to think about in my own relationship, but what about the bigger picture? How does this idea of multidimensional consciousness relate to the world we live in as a whole? Does our individual awakening actually have an impact on the collective?
That's a profound question, and it's one that Sabourin addresses in the interview as well. He believes that our individual journeys of awakening are not just about personal transformation, but about contributing to a collective shift in consciousness.
So it's like we're all interconnected.
Yes.
And our individual levels of awareness contribute to a larger pool of consciousness. And as more individuals awaken, that collective consciousness evolves.
Exactly. He suggests that we're on the cusp of a major evolutionary leap.
Wow.
And that this shift in consciousness is essential for the survival of humanity.
Right.
He believes that the old paradigm of fear, competition, and scarcity is no longer sustainable.
That's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah.
But I could see how our current world reflects those patterns. We're facing so many challenges, from climate change to social unrest to political polarization. It does feel like we need a new way of being if we're going to create a more sustainable and harmonious future.
And that's where this idea of multidimensional consciousness comes in.
Okay.
It offers a new framework for understanding reality, one that empowers us to break free from the limitations of the past and create a future that's aligned with our highest potential.
This is all incredibly inspiring, but it also feels a bit overwhelming.
It can be, yeah.
If the fate of humanity rests on us becoming more conscious, where do we even begin? What practical steps can we take to contribute to this collective awakening?
That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. Sabourin offers some insights into how we can not only awaken to this multidimensional reality ourselves, but also help to awaken others
Okay.
and contribute to a more conscious and compassionate world.
Okay, so we've talked about how this idea of multidimensional consciousness plays out in our personal lives,
Right?
in our relationships, even in our parenting.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious about this idea that our individual awakening can actually contribute to a bigger shift in the collective consciousness.
Yeah, it's a radical concept.
It is. It really is.
But if you think about it, if we're all connected to this invisible system, as Sabourin calls it,
Right.
then it makes sense that our individual levels of awareness would affect the whole. It's like each of us is a drop in the ocean of consciousness.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So as more and more people awaken, it's like we're adding more and more drops of awareness to that ocean, raising the overall level.
Right.
But how much impact can one person really have?
That's a good question.
It feels like we're up against such massive forces in the world, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But Sabourin points out that throughout history, there have always been people who achieved this level of awakening, who could see beyond the limitations of their time.
Yeah.
And offer a new vision for humanity.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, think of Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
They sparked huge social change just through their commitment to a higher consciousness.
Yeah, they were definitely outliers, going against the grain of the prevailing consciousness.
Absolutely.
But their courage to stand up for what they believed in, even when it was unpopular, created a ripple effect that changed the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Sabourin believes we're at a point in history where we need more people to step into that kind of courageous awareness, challenge the old paradigms, and create a new way of being.
That's aligned with peace, cooperation, all that.
Exactly. More aligned with peace, cooperation, and sustainability.
So it's not just about feeling better as individuals.
No.
It's about actually contributing to a better world.
Yes.
Our personal evolution being part of a larger human evolution.
Precisely.
Wow.
He even says this shift in consciousness is essential for the survival of our species.
Wow. Okay.
He believes that the old ways of operating, based on fear, competition, scarcity, are leading us toward destruction.
That's a pretty intense thought.
It is.
But I can see how our world reflects that, right?
Absolutely.
We need a new way of being if we want a thriving future.
Yes, one that's rooted in love, compassion, interconnectedness.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired, but also a bit lost.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
If we're each responsible for this collective awakening, where do we even begin?
It starts with the work we've been discussing, becoming aware of our programming.
Right.
Challenging those limiting beliefs. Choosing to respond to challenges from a more conscious, compassionate place.
So it's about doing that inner work.
Yes.
So that we can show up as more awakened individuals.
Exactly. More awakened and empowered individuals.
Embodying these principles in our daily lives.
Yes.
Our interactions, the choices we make.
Absolutely.
Even in how we react to tough situations.
Yes, and recognizing that every act of kindness, every moment of compassion, every choice for peace contributes to that larger shift in consciousness. Understanding that we're all interconnected. Our individual actions have a ripple effect.
Powerful image, that ripple effect.
It is.
So you're saying even small acts of awareness can make a difference.
Absolutely. It's not about achieving some perfect enlightenment.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices moment to moment.
This has been incredible.
It has.
Exploring this with you, I feel like I have a whole new understanding of myself.
That's great to hear.
Of my place in the world. The potential we have to create a more conscious future.
I've enjoyed exploring it with you too.
Yeah.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
Oh, of course.
The journey of awakening is ongoing.
Right.
Full of twists and turns and possibilities.
What's the one key takeaway for our listeners today?
Remember that you have the power to choose. You're not a victim of your circumstances or your programming.
Okay.
You have the ability to awaken to your true nature and contribute to a world that reflects that awakened consciousness.
That is such an inspiring message.
It is a powerful one.
And the perfect note to end on.
It is.
To our listeners, keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep questioning. Keep choosing love.
Keep choosing love.
You have the power to make a difference.
You do.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious. Keep expanding your awareness.
And remember, the world needs your awakened heart.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.